This edition of Supporting Cast is brought to you by Grant Thornton, the official accounting services partner of the Tony Awards. We're shining the spotlight on the supporting cast whose unrelenting passion and talent make the momentous performances of the 2018 nominees possible.
What I do at Pretty Woman is I am the production stage manager, which means I'm in charge of running the day-to-day operations of the show, from making rehearsal schedules to calling the show or running a deck track each night. And I work closely with the creative team, the production heads on the crew, to make sure that everyone's visions for the show are brought forth on the stage and then are kept consistent each night. And I work very closely with the associates, director and choreographer as well, to maintain that vision that the director leaves us with. So we started rehearsals for our Chicago Out of Town, which is where we did the show for 5 weeks in front of an audience. In the rehearsal room, as a stage manager, your job is to work with the director as he is putting his vision together in the room to make sure that what he thinks the set does or thinks the people can do in the timing world can happen for him. So in a way, you're a yes man, but you're also the problem solver, because you want him to be able to create and fulfill what he needs in the space. And then if you know that there's going to be issues that arise from that, your job is to try to troubleshoot them on either side before you have to return to him and say, this may not work. And so you, 9 times out of 10, want to return with, this is going to work and this is how we're going to make that happen for you. So your job is to kind of marry his creative vision with what's already been designed and is being implemented in the theater in Chicago, which their load-in starts the same day as our first rehearsal. So there isn't much time for change, so to speak. So you have to kind of make sure that everyone stays on the same path, and your job is to keep them there, along with doing rehearsal schedules and tracking and all of those things as you prep to tech/call the show. So Pretty Woman, in the grand scheme of things, is a medium-sized musical. We have a smallish cast. We have 21 actors on stage, and we have 4 swings. And then we have a large physical production. So where we have a small cast, we have the difference of a large scenic design. So averages out to being a medium-sized show. I work with a team of 2 other stage managers, so there's 3 of us in total. But during the rehearsal process and tech process, we have 3 or 4 additional production assistants who help us with the day-to-day activity of moving scenery. And then when we move into the theater, they help us with tracking the actors from quick changes and where they cross over, where they exit, so that we can keep funneling that information to the swings, who can't necessarily get to watch certain elements backstage. They at least can see it on a piece of paper.
I see the wonder of the world through your eyes. To have you here beside me makes me realize that everything is different, everything has changed inside of me.
So we just finished our Chicago run, and we're on a little bit of a hiatus here in New York before we pick back up for our Broadway rehearsals. We're moving into the Nederlander Theater on 41st Street, and so the idea for the production stage manager as we get ready for New York is to take what we learned in Chicago and bring it into the smaller space that we have here in New York. The theater in Chicago could hold 3 Nederlander theaters backstage. So what we did is we built our deck to the only size of the Nederlander, but it gives you the space around you to learn what doesn't fit, how it would fit, how do we make it fit. So our job as we get ready for New York is to work with our production team, carpenters, prop men, wardrobe, hair, sound, lighting, to put everything together and say, okay, we didn't have these 10 pieces on the deck in Chicago. They need to now fit somewhere in the building. So we go to the theater and we say, well, this could fit over here, and this could get hung here and fit up in the air over there. So you're constantly trying to put the puzzle pieces together with the knowledge that you gained from Chicago. On top of that, you're getting new pieces, new costumes, new scenery. So there's your knowledge of the old, but you're trying to fold in the new stuff that you know is coming. So you're like, okay, we know this is gonna get cut/changed, but we don't know how, so let's take a bigger section of real estate for it, just in case it doesn't get smaller, it actually gets bigger. So you're kind of playing that juggling game of your pieces and figuring out how to Tetris them into the right spot. My first job on Broadway was as a production assistant for Mary Poppins. I was freshly out of college and they took a chance on me, which was great. And talk about a big show. We had a cast of almost 40, actually over 40, and a huge house on stage that met with a nursery and a roof unit. So to say that our rehearsal process was small would be a lie. But we had a great experience because it gave me a strong knowledge of automation, of how to work with a variety of people. We had a creative team that was made up of all British director, choreographers, and it was a large creative team. We had a director, a choreographer who was also our co-director, and then a co-choreographer, plus they had associates from the UK, and we had associates that were now going to be with us in the US. So we had this massive team of creative minds all trying to put the show together in a very tight time frame. And then on top of that, moving into a large house like the New Am and being able to finesse all those people into that space and make sure that everyone was happy. And it was a great experience for me because it taught me the nuances that you need to know of this person likes this and this person needs this space, and as a stage manager we acknowledge that they need this but we may not be able to provide it, so how do we make them feel appreciated even though they're not getting what they want? And that show really taught me that aspect of it, along with the automation and technical aspects of the show. I took the ASM job on the first national of the Poppins tour, and I was out there for about 10 months, and that's when I met my real mentor, Lois Griffing. And Lois and I then proceeded to work together for about 5 years. I joined her on Lysistrata Jones as her first. And then just before we started Lysistrata, she asked me to do a reading of a new musical called Kinky Boots. And I said, sure. And she goes, well, Harvey Firestein's writing the book. And I said, okay. And she goes, and Cyndi Lauper's writing the music. And I said, all right, well, my gay heart just got really excited. And she's like, I know, but you have to keep it together. And I said, I'll do it, I got it. So we did a reading together in the basement of Theater Row. And then while we were doing Lysistrata, we found out that Kinky Boots was gonna have a workshop. So we started preparing for that. And when we did Kinky, we all knew we had something special from day one. It was a product that we all connected to, no matter who you are as a person. I think that the story can really speak to you. And then we did this workshop, and we had no idea what the next step was going to be. We were kind of just up in the air. And about 2 weeks later, we got a phone call that we were going to Chicago, far out of town, and that we were going to be hopefully coming to Broadway right after. And we did. We went to Chicago. The day we left for Chicago, we found out that we were going to the Hirschfeld, and we came back, and the rest is history. That's where I began to work with Jerry Mitchell, and he really has become part of my family. And he has since invited me to be the PSM of On Your Feet, which I was with from the very first reading as well through closing. And he also then invited me to be part of the Pretty Woman family. So it's been a great journey, and I think that he brings something to the table that nobody else has, which is a super big heart and a lot of love for the theater community. When I realized that I was doing something that I loved was when Kinky won the Tony. We live in a very cultured city, and the fact that Kinky is a musical that I think stretches people outside their comfort zone, and that a show like that could take on such a large task to really change the world if you change your mind, is something that I truly believe. And that inspires me because it did. It succeeded. So that gives me faith that what we do on a nightly basis is important to people, not just speaking to a select group of people who can afford a Broadway ticket, but being able to make a show that appeals to a mass audience who wouldn't think they would naturally be attracted to that particular show. And that is powerful stuff. And I think what we've done with Pretty Woman in the same vein is we have made it about a woman who is able to really turn her life around by being inspired to do so. And that's important in this day and age. And I think that the woman who plays Vivian for us, brings that to the forefront in a way that I don't think many people could. She's very talented, and she has a way of making everyone in the room, male or female, feel really strong. And that's great.
You and I, we got something going.